How's it going? And welcome to the Fourth and Long podcast with your host, Alec Pecado. Tonight's Fourth and Long podcast episode is going to be a special one. It is my preseason top 25 rankings, my preseason Heisman list, preseason coach of the year, and my preseason conference champions, and much more. Um, if you have not seen yet, I did put a community poll out today asking how y'all would feel about me switching up the schedule a little bit. Everything, you'll still get the podcast 3 days a week, but Monday, instead of doing podcast, it would be the Dynasty, either South Florida Dynasty or Baylor Dynasty, on this YouTube page, this YouTube channel. But let's get into my preseason top 25, starting with number 25, Iowa. Now I know what some people are going to say about me having Iowa at number 25. They're going to say, Alec, you're really, yes, I am extremely high on Iowa this year. I know they have an unproven kid at quarterback. And let's see how, I don't know how their offense is going to be, but that doesn't necessarily mean that Iowa can't be good this year. Brian Ferentz is not the offensive coordinator anymore. Isn't the offensive coordinator anymore. I think their offense is going to be a lot better this year. I think Iowa, if you saw my Big Ten conference preview, I think it was last week, I had Iowa with 9 wins. And if you haven't seen that one or the SEC one yet, conference preview, I highly recommend going back and watching it. So these rankings make a little more sense to you. At number 24 is a team I have not done their conference yet. It is Miami of Ohio. And I like what Miami's bringing back on offense. Brett Gabbert, Kenny Tracy, Cole Weaver. I mean, and they're bringing back an experienced offensive line as well. So I think Miami's in a good spot here. They're number 24 in my preseason rankings. They do have a couple tough games on their schedule that they might lose, but I think at minimum they may lose either only 2 or 3 games this year. Maybe one of them might be to Toledo. They might lose to Ohio University. And then they might lose to Northwestern, which would be embarrassing because Northwestern's not even playing on a real home field. They're playing at their practice facility. At number 23 is South Carolina. And I will be talking about their head coach later on in the episode, the pod. So stick around for that. But South Carolina, I don't know what it is. I am very high on South Carolina. I think South Carolina is going to be good this year. I know Spencer Rattler's gone, but I like sophomore Lenore Sellers. I think he might be, him and Nick Harbor, maybe the best duo, wide receiver quarterback duo in the SEC going into 2024. And I think South Carolina might overachieve what some people have their win total at this year. Like I said, I'm high on South Carolina. At number 23 is Virginia Tech for me. And I'm buying into the hype. I believe in Brett Pry. I believe in Kyron Jones. And I think Kyron Jones might be the best quarterback. Might be one of the best top 3 QBs in the ACC. I think Virginia Tech has a chance And you get my ACC preview tomorrow. So watch out for that. I know I might spoil who's winning the ACC later in the video, but still stick around to see my full ACC predictions tomorrow morning at 11 o'clock. But I do think Virginia Tech has a chance to only lose 1 or 2 games this year. If you look at their schedule, and they have a chance to start the season off really strong, start off maybe undefeated the first couple weeks of the season. At number 22, number 21 is South Florida. South Florida is at number 21 for me. I like what South Florida has done in the offseason. They didn't lose that much in the portal, and they had a really good recruiting class. They did get a 5-star. It wasn't a quarterback, wasn't a running back, wasn't a tight end, wasn't an offensive lineman, wasn't defensive lineman, wasn't DB, wasn't a safety. It was a kicker. And if this name rings a bell, let me know down in the comments. Nico Grammatica. Yes, that is the son of former Buccaneers kicker, legendary Buccaneers kicker, Martin Grammatica. His son committed to South Florida. And I think now that all the big powerhouses in the American are gone, I think USF, University of South Florida, I think has a really good opportunity to become the new power in the American. At number 20, and I know I'm probably going to get some grief for this. I have Colorado. Yes, Colorado's another team I am very, very high on, especially the moves they made this offseason. I know they lost Dylan Edwards. I know they lost a couple other guys, but I like what Dion did in the portal, reshaping that offensive line and bringing in new guys along the offensive line. And you will see in my Big 12 predictions, which are coming out, I believe, Thursday. It's either Thursday or Friday, that I have Colorado in that sleeper territory. There's a potential they could win the conference or not. Maybe. At number 19, I have a team that's going into their first year under a new head coach, that being Texas A&M. Their first year under Mike Elko. He was previously their defensive coordinator. I like what A&M has done in the portal. I know they lost a lot of guys in the portal when Jimbo left, but Elko kept the guys that were there, and he managed to recoup some guys out of the portal to come to commit to Texas A&M as transfers. And I think A&M, yes, I have them as a sleeper in the SEC this year. A&M's another team I'm really bullish of. I'm really high on. At number 18 is another SEC team. It is Missouri. And yes, y'all can tell me in the comments. Give me your opinions in the comments section down below of my preseason rankings, my preseason college football playoff, and whatever else you want to give me grief on. I'll take it, and we can conversationalize about it. But back to the rankings. So number 18 is Missouri. They bring back Brady Cook. They bring back Luther Burton. They gave Eli Drinkowitz an extension. And I think Missouri's in a really good spot. Now, if you have seen my SEC preview, I am still high on Missouri. I think I said 9 games is their total for their wins for me. And I like that for them. They could win more than 9 games. They could win the SEC. I don't think it's going to happen, though. At number 17 is Kansas State. Now, with Kansas State, I could be a little higher on them, but I feel like K-State, there's some stuff that it's very unknown at quarterback. Avery Johnson played a little bit last year, but we need to see more from him. And these rankings will be updated before week 1 and after every week of the season. And I will be posting them on YouTube, in the community poll section, and on Twitter. But K-State, I can still see them. They did get Dylan Edwards in the portal. So he came back home to Kansas because his dad was a K-State alum, apparently. But I still like where Kansas State is. And they're at number 17 for me. At number 16 is a team that had a good chunk added a lot in the portal, including at quarterback. And that would be North Carolina State. I like the transfer addition for North Carolina State of Grayson McCall from Coastal Carolina. I think that is the perfect addition at quarterback for North Carolina State. And they may be another sleeper in the ACC. You'll have to wait and see for that tomorrow morning. At number 15 is another Big 12 school, West Virginia. And I am very, very high on West Virginia this year. And I think West Virginia, they're another team that you'll see in my Big 12 predictions, Big 12 conference preview, where I have them. But I think West Virginia, they had a 9-win season last year. I think they might be able to follow it up with another 8 or 9-win season. Garrett Green's back. Neil Brown is back. And I feel like that's a good thing for West Virginia that they brought him back. At number 12, this is a team I had. So number 15 was West Virginia. 14 for me is Utah. And yes, that's another Big 12 team. First year in the Big 12. The reason I don't have them inside the top 10 is because I understand they're really good on defense. They did get Cam Rising back, but he's unknown. It's unknown how good Cam Rising's going to be this year because he's missed the last 2 seasons with injury. And I feel like Cam Rising, if Utah is to win, you're going to see who my... Hold up. You'll see who I have winning the Big 12 tomorrow. I think it's either tomorrow or the next day. But I feel like if Cam Rising plays really good, that Utah can creep up into the top 10. Number 13, Nebraska. And yes, I know there's a lot of people that are bullish on Nebraska. I'm on the Nebraska bandwagon. Year 2 under Matt Rule. I feel like the Cornhuskers are going to win a lot of games this year. And I feel like Dylan Raiola is going to make an immediate impact in Lincoln, Nebraska. He's going to probably start, I would guess he's going to start the first game of the season. At number 12 for me, now we can get to them. It is Clemson. I have so many questions about Clemson. That is why they're not in the top 10. One of them is not Klubnik at quarterback. One of them is their wide receiver room. And they have some inexperienced guys in that wide receiver room. Not Antonio Williams, but they have a few other guys in there that are inexperienced and I think that they need reps and they need playing time. I do think if you saw the ACC predictions, I still believe in Clemson though, because it's Dabo Swinney, and you never doubt Dabo. At number 11 is Penn State. Now, the reason Penn State's not inside the top 10 is the same thing as why Utah wasn't inside the top 10. Quarterback. Can we trust Drew Aller to be the guy for Penn State? He hasn't shown me enough yet to make me believe that, for one. And two, can they win a big game, which this year would be Ohio State? And it's at home, and it's probably going to be the whiteout. If they can beat Ohio State and Drew Aller can step up his game, I think Penn State will be a top 10 team. Now we get into my top 10. At number 10 is Oklahoma State. I have learned my lesson over the years. Never doubt Mike Gundy. And it seems like old man Alan Bowman, he's back for another season. And Oklahoma State, Ollie Gordon, I'm going to say this right now. Ollie Gordon is not in my top 20 for running backs, which you will get that list next week on Monday. My top 20 running backs list is announced Monday of next week. So that is when you'll hear my top 20 running backs for 2024. Top 20 defenses is coming out soon too. But like I said about Oklahoma State, I've learned to not bet against them. And if you do bet against them, it's at your own will, because Mike Gundy has proved me wrong numerous times. At number 9, LSU. And like I said about Penn State and Utah, with LSU, and this is definitely true, they have an unproven quarterback. Jaden Daniels is now in the NFL, and their quarterback is now Garrett Nussmeier. And I think Garrett Nussmeier is going to be good, but we don't know how good he can be, because he did not start. I think he started the bowl game last year, but that was his only start of the season. And so we'll have to see how good he's going to be. At number 8 is Tennessee. And it's the same thing with Tennessee that I just said a second ago about LSU. Tennessee has an unproven quarterback, a Nico Iamaleava. Don't get me wrong, I think Nico's going to be good, but we need to see a full season of Nico. If I see a full season of Nico and he's serviceable or good, then I can move Tennessee up in the rankings. And the only thing with my rankings is my rankings are a little bit different. How I do them is, if you lose 2 games in a row, you move down. If you lose by more than 10 points, you get moved down the amount of spots you end up losing that game by. And it's the same way with winning. If you win 2 games in a row, or you beat somebody that you haven't beaten in a long time, you end up in my rankings. But, so that is number 8. At number 7 is Ole Miss, another SEC team. Lane Kiffin does it again in the portal. I think you can call Lane Kiffin the portal king. He finds a way to snag guys out of the portal and bring them to Ole Miss. And they got a returning quarterback in Jackson Dart. And I think Ole Miss is going to be one of the top teams in the SEC. At number 6 is Texas. Yes, And these rankings are not going to mirror my top 12 for the playoff. My top 12 for the playoff are going to look a little bit different, but some of these teams you hear me saying now are going to be the same. At number 6, like I said, is Texas. I think Texas is going to be the new powerhouse of the SEC. Starting this year in their first year in the SEC. I like what they have with Quinn Ewers. I like CJ Baxter, Jaden Blue. I like Isaiah Bond, Parker Livingston, and Ryan Wingo. 2 freshman receivers. And I like Sark. Sark is a good head coach. At number 5, I have Alabama. Yes, I know I was going to get some outrage in the comments if I did not put Bama in my top 25 preseason poll. They're at number 5. Now, I don't have any questions about the offense. Defense, maybe a little bit. But the one thing I have a little bit of question about is coaching. How is Kalen DeBoer going to do his first year in the SEC? Is he going to be a good coach for Alabama? Or is he going to, are they going to take a step down and go, I have them going 8-4, but some people have them going 7-5. So let's see who has the better prediction. At number 4 is Florida State. Yes, Florida State did lose a lot to the draft and to the transfer portal, but they did bring in DJU from Oregon State. That's where my skepticism lies, is with DJ Uiagalelei transferring to Florida State. I understand the move because Florida State needed a quarterback, but how good is he going to be? We've seen him struggle at both at both Clemson and Oregon State. Now, how is he going to be at his third different school in 3 years? At number 3, I have Oregon. And I think Oregon is going to finish second in the Big Ten. I like what Dan Lanning's done. He's made a statement in his first year in the Big Ten by getting the recruits he's got in the portal and in high school recruiting. Whether it be Dylan Gabriel, whether it be Tez Johnson coming back, whether it be getting offensive linemen, getting guys on defense. But let's see how good their defense will be this year. Number 2 in my preseason top 25 is Georgia. Now, we just had an incident with Georgia a couple days ago. If you didn't hear, Ra Thomas was placed under arrest for misbehaving, is the way I'm going to put it. But that doesn't deter me from putting Georgia number 2. And I think Georgia's still going to be one of the better teams in the SEC. And at number 1 is Ohio State. And that is pretty self-explanatory with all the moves they made in the portal, getting Will Howard, getting Caleb Downs, getting Quinshon Judkins, getting a couple offensive linemen. Ohio State is going to be the number 1 team in my preseason poll. My preseason awards now. Conference champions. ACC. I'm going to spoil this one, even though you'll get the full ACC preview tomorrow. I believe it's tomorrow at 11 a.m. It is Virginia Tech. I have Virginia Tech winning the ACC. I think Virginia Tech is going to be one of the better teams in the ACC, and I think they have a real shot at winning the ACC. The Big Ten, I have Ohio State winning the Big Ten. which is everybody's pick. It's because of what they did on offense with getting Quinshon Judkins, getting Will Howard, which I like Kyle McCord, but I think Will Howard is a upgrade of I think Will Howard is an upgrade over Kyle McCord. And I think Kyle McCord's going to do great things at Syracuse. My AAC conference champion for 2024 preseason pick is South Florida. Like I just said, I think South Florida has done a lot of good stuff. And it's year 2 under Coach Alex Golish. And I think that South Florida is going to be one of the better group of 5 teams. And they've got a couple chances to make a statement. Week 2, they play Alabama at Alabama. And week 4, yes, I absolutely agree, Adam, that Ohio State looks dangerous this year. And I think I called this on a previous podcast episode, but Michigan, it sounds like they're going to be getting a 2-year postseason ban. And I don't know if it's been finalized by the NCAA yet, but I think that it's well-deserved after everything they did with Connor Stallions. But back to the podcast episode. So, I said South Florida winning the AAC. Now, my SEC pick is Texas. And Texas is another team that's going to look dangerous this year with Quentin Ewers, Jaden Blue, CJ Baxter, Isaiah Bond, Andrew Makuba on defense at safety. I like Texas to win the SEC. I know everybody's going to say, oh, no, they won't get past Georgia. I stand to think they will. My Conference USA champion for 2024 for the preseason is Liberty. The Conference USA is a complete and utter mess. Other than Liberty, and maybe you could say Jacksonville State, who had a good year last year and made a bowl game in their first year in Division 1. But other than those 2 teams, I don't see anybody else that has a shot at winning the Conference USA. Now, my Sun Belt pick. I went back and forth with this one. I had James Madison, but then I remembered they lost a lot of guys. They lost Jordan McLeod. They lost their coach to Indiana. So I went with the second pick here, and that is Appalachian State. And I think App State is the pick that everybody's probably going to go with. Even though I do think James Madison's still going to be good, I think App State is winning the Sun Belt. Now here's a controversial topic that I'm going to get to, and it's the preseason Heisman. And I have 5 guys on here for the preseason Heisman. Number 5 I'm going to start with is Byron Brown for South Florida. Now, as you know me, this is non-biased. South Florida fan talking here. I do think there's an outside opportunity here for Byron Brown to be in the Heisman talk. And I know a lot has to happen for him to get votes for the Heisman. That's why this is a preseason poll. And like my rankings, it will be updated every week. So y'all can debate on it. But I think he's number 5 for me. At number 4 is Isaiah Bond of Texas. And I liked Isaiah Bond at Alabama, but I feel like Isaiah Bond didn't really get a chance to shine at Alabama because he was in a stacked receiver room. And I feel like he's going to have a lot more production at Texas this year with Quentin Ewers at quarterback. Not a slack at all on Jalen Milroe, who is on this list. And speaking of, well, first of all, I got to get to number 3. It is Oklahoma State running back Ollie Gordon. I know I just said he's not one of my top 20 running backs, but he is a top 5 preseason Heisman candidate for me. He is one of the best running backs in college football. You've got him. You've got Donovan Edwards. You've got Travion Henderson, Quinshaw Judkins, Dylan Edwards, Alton McCaskill. I'm drawing a blank here. Arizona running back. Ja'Cory Krosky Merritt. Laquan Wright, South Florida. And there's probably more than I'm missing. Montreal Johnson Jr. from Florida. I just rattled off, I think, 7 names there. But Ollie Gordon is probably 1 or 2 on that list. And I think he is a Heisman candidate for me. At number 2 is Alabama quarterback Jalen Milroe. Now, you know how I feel about Alabama. I have my doubts, but one of them is obviously not their quarterback, Jalen Milroe, because Jalen Milroe is number 2 on my preseason Heisman list. Number 1 is going to surprise you. It is not an offensive player. It is a defensive player. It is Jack Sawyer from Ohio State, defensive lineman. Now, I want to know y'all's opinion in the comments. But I think Jack Sawyer might be the first defensive player to win the Heisman since Charles Woodson. But there's also the case that, a defensive player has no shot at winning the Heisman. I would say otherwise. I could have picked somebody else from Ohio State, but their offense, they're going to have too many guys to throw to on offense. Not everybody's going to get fed. Okay. Now, here's my preseason college football playoff 12-team playoff. At number 12, the winners of the American Athletic Conference, the South Florida Bulls. Now, I think if South Florida makes it, it will be as the 12th seed, as that group of 5 automatic bid group of 5 team that gets in and maybe makes a little bit of a run. But if they get like an Alabama or somebody, they're done in the first round. Number 11 is Arizona, and they will be the runners-up in the Big 12. I almost messed up and said Pac-12 because I'm so used to Arizona being in the Pac-12. It is going to be weird to say Arizona is a Big 12 team because it just doesn't make sense to me at all. At number 10, I have the MAC champion, Miami of Ohio Redhawks. Now, there's some people that only have 1 group of 5 team getting in. I have 2. Because I think there's 2 or 3 group of 5 teams that could get in the playoff. One obviously being South Florida, and then maybe the winner of the MAC or the winner of the Mountain West. Oh, I forgot the Mountain West. Boise State is my Mountain West pick to win the conference, the preseason conference champion. But we get back to my top 12, my 12-team playoff. I was at number 10. At number 9 is a Big 12 team, another one, the second one, and it is Texas Tech. I like what Texas Tech has done. They brought back Barrett Morton. And Joey McGuire is a really good head coach. I feel like Texas Tech is going to be really good this year. So that is number 9. At number 8 is my first SEC team, and it's Alabama. I think Bama does make the playoff. I think the SEC probably gets 3 teams in. And Alabama, I don't really. I think Jalen Milroe does have a big season at Alabama this year. At number 7 is Florida State. And no, they will not be the winners of the ACC this year. I've already told you who that's going to be. They'll be the runners up in the ACC this year, will Florida State. I do like everybody they return. My only problem with them is, can they stay healthy the entire season? If they can, then there's a really good possibility that they might end up winning the ACC, but I don't think they do. I do think they stay healthy, but I don't think they win the ACC. At number 5 is Tennessee, the second SEC team. And if Nico Iamaleava has a big season for Tennessee, they will be in a playoff. At number 4 is Virginia Tech, the ACC conference champ. And with Virginia Tech, I think Virginia Tech has a real shot at winning the ACC. At number 3, Georgia Pitt. I know you're going to be a little mad because you're not in here. I couldn't fit everybody in my 12-team playoff. You're right outside the top 12 at number 13. But at number 3 is Utah. And they will be the winners of the Big 12 in their first season. I know when you saw my rankings, I had them a little lower, but I told you the playoff rankings were going to be a little bit different. I like Utah's defense, and I like what they brought back in offense with Brenton Covey and Cam Rising. And I think they might run the Big 12 this year and win the Big 12. At number 2 is the only Big 10 team I have on here. It is Ohio State, the winners of the Big 10. Ohio State, like I said, good. Their defense is going to be really good this year. And I think their offense will be good too. And at number 1 is Texas. And I think Texas will win the SEC. And my national championship game is going to be Ohio State and Texas. Now we get to my preseason coaches of the year. For the Big 10, it will be I think Jonathan Smith will be the coach of the year in the Big 10 at Michigan State, because he's going to take Michigan State from being a non-bowl team to a team that maybe makes a bowl game in year 1, or they improve their win total from 3 up to either 5 or 6. My ACC coach of the year is going to be Brett Pry at Virginia Tech. And I think Brett Pry has a really good chance of being coach of the year in the ACC. It's either going to be him or Manny Diaz at Duke. My AAC coach of the year is Alex Golish from South Florida. And I think Golish and South Florida might win the AAC. My SEC coach of the year is Mike Elko at Texas A&M. I really like that hire for A&M. He was one of the 3 candidates I had when I went over who I think the next A&M head coach could be in the offseason. And for the Big 12, my coach of the year is going to be preseason coach of the year is going to be Brett Brennan from Arizona. And now we get to my top 5 best games this game of the year candidates. At number 5. At number 3. The 3 games that I think could be really good this year. At number 3 is a game that ended up being a low-scoring defensive battle last year between South Florida and Alabama. And I think it might be the same thing again this year, but with a little more scoring. Because we don't know what the weather's going to be like week 2 in Tuscaloosa, but I do think Alabama and South Florida is going to be a really good game. I was supposed to go to that game before I changed my mind and decided to go to Virginia Tech and Marshall. Number 2 game for me that's going to be a good game this year. It's Tennessee, Alabama. And like I said in my SEC predictions before my predictions for the SEC, I think Tennessee beats Bama this year. And I do think it's going to be a really good game. I think Tennessee wins. My number 1 game of the year candidate, preseason game of the year candidate for me is Ohio State and Oregon. And I think this is going to be a good old Big Ten doozy. Not a lot of scoring, more defense. Going to be a lot of defense. And then my honorable mention goes to Georgia and Texas. And now we get to my favorite part of the show, and that is my preseason coach's hot seat. I've got 5 guys that I'm going to talk about. Number 5, and I'm going to give you their either the low, high, medium, high, and the percent chance they might get fired. At number 5 is Shane Beamer. I have it at low, and that means he's 30. I have it at 30 to 35% chance that he gets fired. Now, like everything else, my hot seat coaches, that also gets updated throughout the season. But I think Shane Beamer right now, his hot seat is low. I've been talking to people. South Carolina normally doesn't have very high expectations for their coaches. So that's why I have him on the lower side of this scale right now. At number 4 is Pat Narduzzi of Pitt. Now, Pitt did get Eli Holstein, and I think there's a medium chance that Narduzzi does get fired if Pitt struggles and they want a new head coach in there. So his fire percentage is set at 40 to 45% right now. At number 3, I have East Carolina head coach Mike Houston, which he should have been fired in the offseason. He should have. I don't know why East Carolina chose to bring him back, but he wasn't fired. So, for me, he's got a high chance of getting fired. And for me, it's a 65 to 70% chance that he does get fired. Now, I can see where they end up making a bowl game and they keep him another year. That does lower his percentage a tad of getting fired. But I think if they don't win more than 4 games, he's probably gone. And we get to my top 2 now. At number 2 is Billy Napier of Florida. And he's got a very, very high chance of getting fired. The fire meter for him stands at 80 to 85% chance, between an 80 to 85% chance right now that he gets fired. Now, and I said this in the SEC video, if Florida gets out to a slow start and they're 0-3, 0-4, maybe 0-5, I think Napier's gone. And number 1, and this is the guy that he also should have been fired, in the offseason. I don't know what Arkansas was doing. It is Sam Pittman. And his chance of getting fired is the highest out of all of them. He's at very, very high chance of getting fired, and it's at 98%. Now, with Pittman, I can see the avenue where he doesn't get fired, but they tell him, look, if you don't turn it around, we are going to fire you, and relieve you of your job at the end of the season and look for a new head coach. Now, September 5th through the 9th, I will be in Blacksburg, Virginia, with the Fourth and Long podcast, which this is my podcast for college football, and I will be podcasting live from Virginia Tech University the 5th, 6th, 7th, and the 8th. All 4 days. If you see me at all any of those 4 days, I will have a Sharpie with me. So, and if you want an autograph, if you want a photo, if you just want to chat for a little bit and maybe either get to know me or get some advice on like maybe YouTube or college football upset picks or how to get into YouTube like I've done, I would be glad to do that. That is the first meet and greet for this podcast with me. And I will be doing more. I will be doing more meet and greets over the next few years when I go to college football games. 2025, I don't plan on going to a college football game in 2025 yet. I don't know. That might change. But also, please remember to become a MVP. It is only $14.99 a month. You get first dibs on upset picks. You get merch. You get to see me create new merch and all that. And you get a chance to possibly be a guest on the show and talk to me about college football or the NFL or baseball, any sport you want. Any sport you want. But leave your preseason predictions, preseason college football rankings, Heisman, Coach's Hot Seat, Games of the Year. Leave those down in the comments section down below of this video. And that will wrap up tonight's episode of the College Football Fourth and Long podcast with Alec Peccato. I will see y'all back here tomorrow morning at 11 a.m. for the ACC preview 2024. Have a wonderful rest of your night.